outside is frightful, but the fire is so delightful. Since we've no place to go, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. It doesn't show signs of stopping, and I brought some corn for popping. The lights are turned down low. Let it snow, let it snow, let it snow. When we finally kiss goodnight, how I'll hate going out in the storm. But if you'll really hold me tight, all the way home I'll be warm. The fire is slowly dying, and my dear, we're still goodbying. As long as you love me so, let it snow, let it snow, let it snow.
I suppose you're wondering what this is. Well, this is the Christmas episode, so I thought I'd change it up a little bit. Been working on a bunch of radios lately. I think it's time we do an old record player. Okay, so this is an old portable record player. Old portable phonograph. And this is from way back in the day. Looking at it, I would say it's probably mid to late 20s. Okay, the Wander Deluxe. That's the only name there is on it. We don't know who made this. Alright, the box is in acceptable condition. It's good enough for me. I'm going to leave it just like it is. Okay, it does not work. The brake is non-existent. What would happen is there's a little piece of cork or sometimes leather, and when you engaged it, it would rub against the inside of this platter. And they just get worn down over time. It's fixable. Okay, the next thing, this tone arm, it should move a lot smoother than it is. I'm not sure why. It probably just needs lubricated or cleaned or both. So we'll go ahead and do that. Okay. Wind it up. The spring is good. Okay, so it is fully wound up. And if I just set my fingers on it, we see it has hardly any torque at all. Okay, and I got the governor on the fastest it'll go. And I can tell by looking at it, it is not going fast enough. Okay, so this plays the old 78s, the predominant speed for back in that day. And it's just a test record. It has a couple cracks in it. I'm not too worried about it. And yeah, we can see it does not work. Okay, so we're going to fix this. We're going to make this into a good everyday player. It's a nice little machine. It's got a good look to it. I love this, the Wander Deluxe. I just love that. Very cool looking. Okay, here's where you store your records when you're traveling with it. Okay, so let's get to it. I see some screws along the outer edge here, and we'll just take those out and see where that gets us. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to take off is this bracket right here, so we can flip the lid out of the way and make it a little easier to work on. I need a smaller screwdriver. Okay, so then I'm going to take off these screws around the edge here. Okay, we already see this one. That little ring around the screw is already missing. So somebody has been in here. Okay. Probably have to take this off. I believe this should just lift up and out. Okay, I just noticed this. Okay, so that's where you put your needles. Right in that little cup right there. Had this on it. Okay, and this is acoustically amplified, meaning the sound just comes in here, and inside the sound box there's a, looks like a foil diaphragm, and it'll travel through here. The sound waves will travel through here, and there's probably some kind of a horn inside this that just amplifies it, and the sound comes out this back area right here. Okay, and I can already tell there's going to be a bunch of needles and crap down in here, because there always is. That's just a prime spot for stuff to fall. Oh yes, there's a bunch of needles in there. Bunch of them. Alright, we're going to clean that out later. Let's put that in a safe spot. Okay, that looks interesting. Oh yeah, you can hear all the needles and crap down in there. Oh boy, look at that. Just like I said, there's some kind of a horn, and I have no idea what that's made out of. That is weird. I have never seen that before. Okay, we've got some Heinemann Flyer, made in USA 6854. Who knows? I've never heard of that. I'm going to Google that later. So it's a one-spring motor. Most of these portables had one-spring motors on them. And okay, here's our governor. And it's very simple. Extremely simple little setup. A one-spring motor will not give you much power. Just enough to play one record. Maybe two if you're lucky, but probably just one record. Okay, this platter should pull up. Should pull straight off. And I don't know if it will. It might be stuck on here. Okay, we're using both hands and we're prying up with our fingertips. Okay, I don't think it's going to come off. I don't want to break this. So it looks like what we can also do is just remove these screws and we'll be able to get to everything on here. Okay, before you do anything, make sure this spring is fully unwound. Before you remove any screws, any gears, anything, before you even look at the thing, make sure this spring is fully unwound, because it can badly hurt you if it is not. Alright, so we've made sure there is no tension left in the spring. Okay, see, it stops. It stops every time. And I went ahead and did this a couple times more just to make sure there's no trapped energy. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and remove these screws and see if I can take off this top. Make sure you save all your screws, don't lose them. Okay, see, the spring still has a little left in it. It wasn't much, but it was enough. Came off easily. Okay, someone's been in here before. That's all marred up, chewed up. Very interesting how that gear is made. Look at that, isn't that cool? And it's metal. It's not like it's a fiber gear or anything, it's brass. Okay, so we have a spacer on top of the spring here. Okay, and this should lift up. Aha, I figured it out. Okay, very, very sneaky. This is a new one on me. I've never seen this before. I thought that had to do something. Let me get a punch. All right, perfect size. Wow. They were very sneaky when they designed this. And that allows this gear to now come off. Okay. So the main thing I want to do is get that spring barrel out of there. And it looks like we have to take the motor off to do it, which is what these 3 screws right here are for. And we couldn't get to them without pulling the platter off. See, by taking a video of all this, I don't have to take any notes or write anything down. I can just refer to my video I took. It makes things go a lot faster and smoother. Okay, and then we have to take off the speed control. And there's a screw right here on the side. Okay, and that's held in the middle. This is hooked onto the spring. Okay, and we can already see evidence of dried up and hardened grease and the old lubrication. I'll bet that's what's slowing this down. Okay, so we have the spring barrel and it is out. And here's the spring. So here's the part where you must be very careful. This spring could really hurt you. There's probably 12 feet worth of spring steel in here coiled up into this little 4-inch container. And it's just waiting to jump out any chance you give it. So you must be very careful. Okay, this has dried up lubrication and an old grease, and it is hardened over time. It's probably 80 years old, probably more than that if this thing is from the mid-20s. Okay, and this is the reason that we can't get enough speed and torque out of that record player. With all this dried up crud in here, this spring is not near as efficient as it could be. So to take this out safely, we're wearing safety glasses, and it's also a good idea to wear gloves. Okay, we've got a barrel, and okay, this is very dangerous. Do not do this at home. Okay, and one end, oh, you can't even see it. Okay, one end of it is connected to that rivet that we've got on the outside wall. Okay, and you see how that's kind of pear-shaped? Okay, well, we've got it out. There's probably more than 12 feet in one of these. I mean, this could really hurt someone. I also seen this in there. I don't know what this is. The spring is not broken. It's together all the way, and I don't see any repairs on it. So I really don't know why this little piece right here is in there. I'm not going to put it back in there. There's no reason for it. Okay, so this piece, we're just going to leave it in there. It's the same exact design as this. You've got a little stud on the side of that piece right there, and on your spring you've got a little pear-shaped piece that slips onto it, and then it hooks in there. Okay, so we're going to have to clean this somehow, and what I usually use is gasoline or kerosene, and that'll take all that old oil off of there, and then we're going to have to re-grease it and re-feed it into that barrel. And there's a technique for it, so stay tuned to find out how we fit this disaster back into this thing. Okay, so I went ahead and cleaned these all up. See how nice and shiny those are? Everything's nice and clean. Okay, the spring, nice and clean. See the old grease on here. In fact, there's still a little bit right on that edge. But you could see the little clumps of it where it turned hard. And this stuff turns into a gunk, like a tar or a glue. And it's horrible. Okay, right there's some. I evidently didn't clean this edge too good. But it just cakes up and clumps on here. Okay, I got everything else it looks like. So the next thing we have to do, we have to put grease back on this, because this crud that was in here before was not grease. So almost anything will work. Any type of grease, at least automotive grade. The original stuff that was in here is a mixture of Vaseline and graphite powder. I'm not sure what kind of mixing ratio it was, but that's what all these old machines had in them from the factory. And if you're a purist, well, you can put that back in. There's no problem with that. But this stuff is a little easier than trying to mix your own. And you want to pick something with a low odor, you know, like white lithium grease, something like that. That has quite a pungent smell to it. And if you use that, you know, every time you open the lid on the darn thing, you're going to get knocked back on your heels from the strong odor it emits. So this stuff, I don't smell anything. Okay, so we have to get the new grease we have back on the spring. And I'm just going to go for it. Okay, I'm going to put some in here first. And I've got rubber gloves on. Okay, that looks good for that. Okay, and for the spring, okay, and when we get this back in the barrel, I'll worry about getting more grease into that center part. Okay, so I should have mentioned before you take this thing out, always note which way it's wound in there. Okay, the spring came out of this, or we're going to put it back in just like it's laying now. So it winds up going this way, going clockwise. Okay, so we start on the very outside. Go ahead and hook this back in there. It's a little harder than it looks. All right. And just make sure you keep this hand right here tight at all times so that it cannot jump back out. And then you're going to feed it in there with this hand.
Get out those old records, those old phonograph records, the ones we used to play so long ago. What if they sound scratchy? The tunes really were catchy, and especially those that said, I love you so. I used to beg you over and over just to set the wedding day. To get you courtable, I'd bring my portable and melt your heart away with all those old records, those old phonograph records, the ones we used to play so long ago. Get out those old
All the ones about
records, those old
all the ones about
phonograph
you.
records, the ones we
Kitten on
used
the
to play
keys
so
and
long
Nola
ago.
on the old wind-up
What if
Victrola.
they sound
Barney Google was great.
The tunes
All the songs
really
about
were catchy,
Kate.
and especially
Jada,
those
jada,
that
boo,
said I love you so.
Yucca hula, hickey,
I used to beg you over and over
Darling, now
just
I'm
to set the
sorry.
wedding day.
Meet me on
To
the
get
back
you
porch
portable,
songs,
I'd bring my
torch
portable
songs,
and melt your heart away with all those old
They were wonderful then.
records, those old
Play them over
phonograph
again.
records, the ones we used to play so long ago. The ones we used to play so long ago.
Alright, so there it is. Messy, nasty procedure, but there it is. We got it finished. Okay, now let's get cleaned up and we'll work on reinstalling this. Okay, so here we have our completed spring barrel. And all the other pieces, I soaked them in that kerosene and I cleaned them up. So now we're going to start reinstalling this. Okay, so the first thing, okay, this goes together and that gear fits on this little worm gear right here. So we might as well hit that with some grease. All the moving parts in this need lubrication, or else they're going to wear prematurely. Okay, now there's a clamp that went right here. Okay, there's one. Okay, the one on this side was the smaller one. Okay, so here's this. I cleaned that all up too. Okay, so this will move. This part, this brass part, will move up and down the shaft it's sitting on. So we're going to go ahead and hit that with some oil. Okay, we don't want this to be too tight, but you don't want too much play in it either. And that's actually perfect right there. See, it still moves very well, but I can't feel any play in that shaft at all. Okay, so that's perfect. Okay, screws are good and tight. All right. Go ahead and hit this gear with some grease on here. Okay, so the motor is completely reassembled. And I thought I should just point out, inside here there's a little ring of felt or foam. And it's made that way so you can soak it with oil and it'll stay lubricated. So make sure you do that. Absolutely as smoothly and quietly as can be. Okay, let's stick it back on the cabinet. Alright, so the very next thing we have to do is get this tone arm off of here and get it working. Now this has a pot metal joint down here, and they like to swell over time, and it has made it very hard to move. So we have to take it apart. I'll try some oil first, however I don't think that's going to work. Very common problem for these. Okay, so this part down here is pot metal. And what happens, it's a very common problem with these. What happens is that pot metal will swell over time. Whatever recipe they used for this metal was not very pure. So over time it just continues deteriorating, and it has made it to where this is extremely hard to move. Okay, we have to get that apart, and to do that, we've got a pin on this side, and we've got a pin on this side. Now we use a punch to push it through, and those pins have like threads on them, so as they come out they'll turn. So once you get them out a little ways, you can take a pliers and just turn it and pull it out, and that'll come out. Okay, that's what we'll do next.
See what damage we did.
Okay, naturally, I forgot to turn the camera on, but what we did was we took this all apart, and I had to press this pot metal out of here, and I sanded it down. I actually turned it down on the lathe first to make sure it was true, and then I sanded it all down. Look how nice and smoothly that turns. Okay, and that's just what we need. Alright, we got this back on there. How you take this off, we've got a screw on the bottom, and then see, it just unscrews out of there. Okay. reinstall it now. There's a certain way it goes on. Right like that. Okay, and we've got 3 little wood screws, panhead wood screws, that hold this on there. I probably could have painted this while I had it off. We painted this black, but this is not a restoration. This is just a resurrection. I'm showing you how to get one of these working again. I don't mind all this old patina. I think it really gives the thing some age, and I like it. Okay, see how nice and smoothly that turns now? Perfect. Alright, so the very last thing we have to do is fix this brake. Okay, what we've got here we've got a little piece of leather in there, and it's got this metal around it holding it in there. So what we can do, I need a better camera mount. Okay, in the frame. Okay. We can pry these 2 metal tabs apart. Alright, and there's our leather. You can see how worn down that is. Okay, I don't have any more of this on hand, so just to get it working, I'm going to see those metal pieces were crimped right there where it goes in. I'm just going to move it forward and recrimp those metal pieces down on it. And that should get it working until I can get more of this stuff in. Okay, and that gets it working. And we'll go ahead and put a drop of oil on this. Alright, that works a lot better. Okay, as far as I know, this turntable, or this record player, should be ready to play. Okay, I'm actually quite surprised at how good a condition that this turntable felt is in. Yes, it's stained, and yes, it's frayed around the edges, but normally that's the first thing to go. And you're not going to see this when you've got a record sat on it. Okay, we've got this. It screws back down in there. See, normally the platter will just pull up off of that. That's why it tripped me up the first time trying to figure out how to get this off of there. I've never seen that before, but I don't work on too many record players. Alright, so before we close this all back up, I've got my card. I've got a little note written on there. And I just like doing stuff like this for the next owner to find in 40 years. I think that'll be pretty cool. I always like finding stuff like that when I take these old machines apart. Alright, so we've got our screws, and we've got those little metal pieces that go on just like that. And we've got 5 of them around the perimeter of this thing. We'll just reinstall them. Alright, we've got one that doesn't have that little metal piece that goes around it. So we'll put this in the back corner here where no one's going to see it. And that should be fine. Okay, so and then we've got a little wood screw here. And this holds the brackets that goes on the lid here. Okay, what's holding me up? Oh, I see, I see. I wish this lid opened a little more, to be honest. I don't think it opens near wide enough to really see what you're doing. Alright, and that gets the reassembly completed. Okay, we have our reproducer. We haven't done any work on this yet. I don't think we need to. It's got an aluminum diaphragm in there, and I think the gaskets are okay. So I'm not going to touch it unless we have a problem with it. Okay, and to tighten this on here, we've got a little thumb screw. Alright, so here's the record I'm going to play on it. An early acoustic Victor Batwing label. And this is probably early 20s, I would say, just like the record player. And so this is also an acoustic record player. You don't want to play an electrically recorded record from, say, the 40s or 50s, because this, with this heavy tone arm and this steel needle, that will destroy your record. Okay, these records are made to have, or made to be played on an old acoustic record player. Okay, so we don't have a needle in here, and okay, so here's the needles I've got. You can get these off eBay, 100 of them for about around $5. They're very inexpensive, and these are one-time use needles. You play one side of the record and throw it away. You don't want to use these more than once. And also, see, these are soft tone, these are medium tone, and then there's full or loud tone needles. And I'll show you the difference in those. Okay, the needle on the right is a soft tone needle. And this is how you control the volume of the player. Okay, the one on the left is a medium, and a full tone needle will be even thicker. And so the smaller the needle, the less vibrations from the record will get into the diaphragm and be amplified. So the bigger the needle, the more volume you're going to get out of it. And so also I'm going to show you how to tell if a needle's been used. Okay, here's one that fell out of the player. It's all rusty. And what you do is you take it, and we're looking at the very tip. You spin it in your finger, and you watch for any flashes of light. And I don't see any. This needle has not been used. If you see a flash of light when you spin it, that'll mean there's a flat spot on here, and this needle's been used. You don't want to use these more than once. Okay, this one also has not been used. These are kind of rusty. I doubt if I use them. But, okay, so we're going to stick a brand new needle in here. You want to get it snug, but not overly tight. Okay, the machine is fully wound up, so now let's test it. Okay, see how well our brake works now. It's like a flute solo. Who knows? I just grabbed a test record. It's kind of catchy though. Okay, and we can see that it works very, very well. Okay, so that completes it. Alright, so we can see how easy it is to get one of these old players working. Now this was not a restoration, this was a resurrection. I just wanted to get it working again. Now, so we see the main problem here was that old dried up grease in the mainspring. And replacing that gave us all of our power and speed back. I've got the governor set almost on the lowest it'll go, and it's still too fast. I mean, it really woke this thing up. Okay, so till next time, Merry Christmas to you all. I hope you enjoyed.